Hello and welcome to Beamer, folks. You've noticed that I've incorporated the paper clips as well, and I've left one out over here. So the pins have all gone in. The best technique I found for doing this is to, obviously these ones, that's a drawing pin there, there, and there. Those just effectively go straight in. There's no additional complication. But the best technique to push them in is to kind of, in my opinion, is to kind of twist the pin so that the sharp point drills into the plastic a little bit. You only have to go back forward a little bit and then it perforates the paper and the plastic and you're fine. So those drawing pins there, very easy push in. These ones are slightly more complicated because you've effectively got to thread the pin through the drawing clip as you push it into the plastic. Again, what I found best to do is to start off by pushing the drawing pin into the plastic, rotating it slightly, drilling in, creating a hole so that the pin starts to push in, then pull the pin out to then assemble the paper clip to the pin so that the whole assembly can go in. I've done these three. I've left this one out so I can demonstrate it to you. So, the drawing pin, incidentally, on all of them goes through this position of the paper clip, not there but there. As you can see in these, that's the correct position. Now what I do is, let's put the, so I've got the pin like that. I don't know whether you can see that clearly, but I've got the pin like that in that position with the little round piece of the paper clip just there, and then finally just push that, align that up with the hole that you've made before and push, and then push down as far as it will go, leaving that connected with that pin over there. Incidentally, something I failed to mention, all of this is best done with the lid of the takeaway box in place. If you try and do it without, it does work, but the box flexes a little and it all becomes slightly more awkward to do. But if you leave the lid on, and I should have said this at the beginning, if you leave the lid on, you'll find it easier to assemble. You can apply more pressure. So there they are. That's the construction to date. Now all I've got to do now is wire it up, and I'll do that off screen because it'll take a little while to do. I must apologise for the roughness of this sketch. You have battery positive here, and you have battery negative here, the LED here, the resistor there, and the 4 logic switches there. This wiring diagram, has been conditioned so that there are never more than 2 wires twisted on any one pin. If you try to put more than 2 wires twisted together, quite frankly the thing could start to fall apart. So I've kind of conditioned the circuit diagram so that is so. Okay, and if you wanted a closer inspection of that, you could always put the video on pause. So this is what it looks like when wiring has been fully assembled onto the unit. Bit of a bird's nest, I know, but do appreciate that this was an implementation of logic made many decades ago, so it lacks sophistication, and it certainly doesn't look very elegant. But this is what I had to explore. You've got the battery positive coming in on here. You've got the battery negative coming on here. You've got two wires attached to this pin here, one of which goes to there. This is the red wire. You've got two wires attached to there and another red wire going round to this pin here. You've got two yellow wires attached to this pin here, one yellow wire going off to this pin here. The other yellow wire following it through goes to this pin here. There's a second yellow wire attached, and that yellow wire goes through to the other side of the resistor pin. There are no more wires on that pin other than that one yellow one. Black we've already discussed. If we move to the white wire, the white wire is attached to this pin here, this upper pin here, and the other side of the white wire is attached to this pin here. If you haven't realised this already, but you've effectively got 4 switches, and the centre wipers of each switch are from top left round anti-clockwise. That's a centre wiper there, that's a centre wiper there, that's a centre wiper there, and that's a centre wiper there. It's time now to test this logic demonstrator. It fundamentally shows 2 logic circuits to all, well, I should probably say most, because I probably don't know all logic system, but it represents fundamental building blocks of all logic systems, including very sophisticated computers known today. We have here first on the left hand side an OR gate. That's OR gate. You can think of a OR gate in your everyday decision making by saying, for example, what would I like to drink? Would I like to drink now coffee or tea? Or in a, let's say, a shop environment, you want to know whether a customer is coming through one door or another. You would attach a switch to both doors, and when either switch is activated, you would have, say, an alarm, a little buzzer buzzing to indicate a customer has entered your shop. The circuit here is presented in 2 inputs. One's called A and the other one's called B. And the centre wiper of both A and B switches is set to 0. In an OR gate system, if the 2 inputs are set to 0, there will be no indication of the LED. But if, say, for example, using a door example, if one door were opened by a potential customer, let's say input A would move the switch to that position, you would have the LED indicator come on. If you reset that back to 0, so both doors are closed, and the other door open because there was another customer coming in the other door, that indicator would show there. So you've got 3 logic states at the moment where you have 0, 0, or 0, 1, or 1, 0. So what happens in an OR gate if you have both switches on? That would represent 2 customers simultaneously coming in both doors at the same time. We'll move one over there and move the other one over there. We still have an indicator. So for this OR gate, we have 4 states here, and that is 0, 0 with no indicator, 1, 0 an indicator, 0, 1 an indicator, and a 1 and a 1 indicating. So that is the left hand side, and the left hand side here represents the OR gate. Now we have presented here the right hand side of this logic demonstrator, and it's another fundamental logic gate to all systems, and that is the AND gate, AND. It has, like the previous OR gate, two inputs, that's A and B. And to think of an AND gate, just think of that you wouldn't leave your home without wearing your left hand and right hand shoes. So to leave the house, you need to wear a left hand shoe and a right hand shoe. Or if you were in a car, you would not want the car to move away unless both the left hand door and the right hand door were closed. So here we have demonstrated a two input AND gate, and at the moment it's set to 0 and 0 on the inputs, and as you've noticed there's no indicator showing here. If I move one input to the closed or 1 position, we still have 0 output. So for 0, 0 and 0, 1 input states, we do not have an indicator. If I reset that back to 0 and take the B input over to a 1, again we have a situation where the indicator, the LED indicator, is not showing when there is 1 on input B and 0 on input A. So at the moment we've got 3 input states. One is 0 and 0 on both A and B, 0, 1 on output A and B, and 1, 0 on output A and B. All of those 3 states don't indicate the LED, but there is a 4th state remaining, and that is a 1 and a 1. And there we have it, and it's not working. There was an intermittency on one of the connections, but it's now working properly, and you can see that with inputs both A and B at a 1, we get now the LED lighting up. So out of our 4 logical states, only 1, that is when A and B are at a 1, will you get the indicator coming up. I cannot emphasize more the importance of these two. I'll open up the other one now, of these two circuits. They are fundamental building blocks. I could add to this that an inverter would also be smashing, and that an inverter is simply that when you've got a 1, it inverts it to a 0. When you've got a 0, it inverts it to a 1. That will produce a NAND gate and a NOR gate. That also is a fundamental logic processing. But the AND gate, to me, even though I was very young, I did kind of appreciate, let me just obscure the OR gate again because I'm talking about the AND gate. I did kind of appreciate that an AND gate was, in my head, a little special. And that is because if you've got inputs A and B, and you've got effectively 1 on A plus 1 on B, 1 and 1 equals 2. And so therefore the indicator showing up only when there is a 1 on A and a 1 on B kind of told me that that the indicator was indicating the number 2. I didn't have a deeper appreciation of this at that age, but if you extend this thought, in addition to, as I said, the inverter gate as well, you can say that there is an understanding here that leads you towards a half adder digital logic system and a full adder logic digital system. So there is a sort of a gateway through this very simple AND gate into some very complex understandings. And incidentally, I also appreciated that in mathematics of multiplication, multiplication is nothing more or less than a series of additions. I didn't know at the time that that is equally true of division. That is, division is nothing more than a series of subtractions. And with an adder in your digital logic system, and through a process called complementation, all mathematical functions can be achieved via these very simple gates. That is addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. And once you've got those 4 under your belt, you know, you've got the understanding to some very complex computerized system. So although this is a very crude and primitive structure, it does shine a light on things to come, and that's what fired my imagination into developing a much better understanding and exploring the process of digital logic, electronics, and all that entails.
This is Beamer signing out for now.